Good morning, good morning, good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Today's podcast that is yet to be named, we're going to figure this out sooner or later, I promise. It just seems like the content is driving a lot of things. So we'll figure out what this is going to look like, hopefully in the near future. But as you guys are coming in, just give me a shout out. Where in the world are you this morning? I have just gotten back from Las Vegas. Literally, I think about 1:30 last night. I'll tell you more about that in a sec. But it was an exciting time, and much of what I'm going to share with you today is a byproduct of that event. So just a heads up there. We're going to talk about blockchain today and why it matters. I feel like this is something that is so impactful, and yet nobody is really educating business owners on what this is going to look like for us. So that's my goal today, is to change that dynamic so that you are in the know, and you'll look back and you'll say, wow, I remember when Kim talked about this. My hope is that not only will you remember this, but that you'll listen to what I say today and participate potentially in how this is going to impact business owners moving forward. So, like I said, as you're coming in, just give me a shout out. Where is everyone this morning? And also, don't hesitate to ask questions as we go along. We'll try to answer them as we go, or I'll circle back towards the end and make sure that I get everybody's questions answered. Let me restate that. I usually answer questions at the end because keep in mind, this is a podcast. We're going to be publishing this as a podcast. So we usually do housekeeping stuff on the front side, and then we get into the juicy meat of it. And then I circle back at the end. So that we have that clear cut piece in the middle that we can use as the podcast. So just let us know as you're going. We're gonna jump in here. Also, if you know someone that would get value from this, feel free to tag them, or if you want to share this out into your communities, just hit that S button and push it out. Today, you're just getting me. We don't have a special guest today, but like I said, I really wanted to dig into this for a multitude of reasons. One, because I'm so fired up about it. And I've been doing this for 30 plus years. Yeah, I've been in the online space for 30 plus years. I started my first business in 1991. So people who think the internet didn't start until 1996, wrong. It might have really started getting traction about then, but my first business was web design, which I'm going to talk a little bit about in a second. Just the evolution of the internet and how a lot of times we miss the boat. So my hope is that by sharing what I'm going to share with you today, you don't miss the boat on the next evolution of the internet. So as I shared a minute ago, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to jump in. And like I said a minute ago, I just got back from Las Vegas. And I don't know if you, for those of you who may know and follow racing, I've never been a racing fan. So I had no idea anything about this Formula One thing that was just in Las Vegas, except I know that you couldn't get an Uber while you were there because all the roads were blocked and it was difficult. And it was a lot of energy. But I wasn't there for the racing. I was actually there for a major blockchain event. And that's what's really fired me up. What I've learned over the past, I would say 8 to 9 months, and then over the course of the last few days, it is literally keeping me up at night thinking about how I can share this with everyone, specifically my community, because I feel like I said before, there's so many things that are happening and they're just not being talked about. So I want to tell you a little bit about this event, though, because I want to paint the picture of who was in the room. Like lots of times I get invited to things and it's awesome. I'm always appreciative of being in the room, but I've never been in a room like this. We're talking billionaires, tech visionaries, like people who've bought, created other blockchain projects and successful ones, successful entrepreneurs who've already built and sold multiple companies. So you know that saying, success follows success. Well, when you're in a room with people who've created massive wealth multiple times over, you need to pay attention to what they're focused on. And right now, they're focused on blockchain and Web3, y'all. And that's why I want you to to tune in and listen, because there is so many amazing things happening that you have an opportunity to participate in, potentially for the first time ever. But here's what really struck me. These billionaires with a B, not an N, so billionaires, which I've not known a ton of in my lifetime, I will say that. I have had a seven-figure business myself for years. And so I feel like I've moved in millionaire circles for a long time. And I'm not saying that to toot my horn. I'm just saying that it's just a different environment. Billionaires talk about things differently than millionaires do. And it's not just about the money. They're talking about impact. So while a lot of six-figure business owners, and I've been there, they're focused on their next revenue goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. I mean, that's the game, right? But these billion-dollar players are thinking about how to reshape entire industries, how to solve global problems, and how to create systems that change the way that our business today is done forever. They're playing a totally different game. And to be in that room and listen to these conversations is was just such a blessing. And I feel so incredibly grateful, not only that I was there, but that I get the opportunity to bring this information back to you guys. So that is a powerful part of what drives me, is not hoarding information. I've never been one to hoard information. I love sharing it, and I love people to come along and be a part of the process. That brings me to the most important lesson that I've learned. And this has been across my entire business career, honestly. Timing is everything. You can have the best product, the best marketing, the best team, but if your timing is off, none of that really matters. And this is really what kept me up after late at night. Like, I barely could sleep last night. The timing for what I'm talking about and the things that I'm sharing with you is absolutely perfect right now. And I kind of leaned into this a minute ago, but I'm going to say it again, maybe a little bit more succinctly. I've always been super straight with my community, super transparent. Whatever I discover, what I learn, I share it. I don't wrap my arms around it and say, oh, this is a strategy that no one else needs to know, because if everybody else knows it, then it's not going to work anymore, which does tend to happen. But my feeling is, as much as I know, I want everybody else to know it, right? So I feel like I'd be doing you a massive disservice if I didn't share what I learned and why it matters for your business today, right now, not, 2 years when it's going to be too late. So here's the thing. We've all had those moments where we can look back. Maybe you have, I know I have, and you could say to yourself, wow, if only I had known. So remember when people thought that the internet was just a fad, like, oh yeah, it's going to come and go. It's just ridiculous thing that only the kids are doing. You could even say that for social media. But think about it. When a tech genius, this was a quote. This is a quote actually from Bill Gates in 1995. Now, a lot of people will put him in the tech genius space, right? Like, he founded Microsoft, and he's still very heavily involved in the tech space. But he actually called the internet a passing fancy. Wonder how he thinks now. Or imagine if you'd have bought Amazon stock back then, like in the early days when it first, like when Jeff Bezos was in the garage, like, right? If you had known about it then, or if you'd started building your online presence before anyone else did, right? So, or like, think about when social media was just starting. I'll be the first to tell you, when I first saw Facebook, I was like, what is this? Like, no, this is just for kids. But then it quickly flipped on me in that dynamic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like B2B boards on steroids. And I shifted my mindset. But I saw it pretty quickly. I did not sit on it. And, 3 years later or 5 years later, say, oh, I got to jump on social media because everybody else is doing it. So meanwhile, other people got busy and they built massive empires using the power of social media. And I know this because I was there. I've built my own social media community to over 1 million, and I've been a part of the process of helping so many other entrepreneurs navigate and learn and figure out the strategy behind social media. So I've been a part of that process. But here's what's keeping me up at night. We're standing at another one of those moments right now. The blockchain revolution isn't just coming, it is already here. And it's like an underground movement. I swear. It's like people think it's so complex that they're not and stopping and paying attention. And I'm not just talking about cryptocurrency, although that is absolutely a part of that ecosystem. But I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm talking about a fundamental shift in how business will be done, just like the internet changed everything in the 90s and social media transformed it again in the 2000s. So we're in the next evolution of the internet. And what I saw in Vegas wasn't just tech talk, it was real businesses, major brands, and smart entrepreneurs positioning themselves for what's coming. And the best part, it's absolutely early enough that you haven't missed the boat. But here's the big thing, the window of opportunity won't stay open forever. It's just like when social media first started. If you didn't jump in, say in the first, year to two, it was tougher, right? And now, if I was to try to, harness the power of social media to build or rebuild what I've built in the early days of social media, it would be very difficult for me to do that. So, my goal in the next 30 to 45 minutes, and I'm going to try to talk fast and share as much as I can, but I'm going to break this down for you in a way that I hope, will make sense to you. No tech jargon, no complicated explanations, just what you as a business owner need to know about this revolution, and more importantly, how you can position yourself to benefit from it. So, I want you to think of this episode as your wake up call, your practical guide, and your roadmap all kind of rolled into one. Because if there's one thing that I've learned in all of my years of business, like I said, dating myself massively here, but 30 plus years of business, is that timing is everything. And right now, the timing is perfect for you to understand and act on what's coming. So before I dig into this, though, I think there's a need for us to break down kind of the evolution of the internet because, like I said before, in my earliest days of being a business owner, the internet was just getting started. So I've had this journey throughout all of this. Like I was there at the very beginning. I've seen all the evolution of all of this. So, and right now I feel like I'm experiencing some, I'll call it serious deja vu right now. And I want you to understand why. So if you were around in the early days of the internet, and we're going to call this Web 1, it was the read only internet. And I remember this like it was yesterday because one, it was my very first business. And it was one of those things where everyone was saying, if you don't have a website in 5 years, you're going to be out of business. And you know what? They were absolutely right. A lot of those static websites were just like digital brochures. And a lot of those early businesses are no longer in existence. And it's not so much because they didn't have a website, it was just because they didn't know how to engage and market their businesses. And then along came Web 2.0, and I'll label this the social internet. And again, I kept telling businesses at the time, I was like, once I saw it, I understood the power of it. I would say exactly the same thing. I'm like, if you aren't on social media in 5 years, you're going to be out of business. And some people thought, yeah, Kim, you're exaggerating. But look around now. How many successful businesses do you know that have absolutely zero social media presence, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram? These platforms became absolutely essential for business survival. And the businesses today have all embraced social media. But the businesses that embraced social media early, they built social media empires. The ones that dismissed it as a fad, well, a lot of them are no longer around, and or they're struggling to build community on their social platforms. So And maybe you are saying, yes, that's me. That was me. I didn't lean in. I didn't understand the power of it. So I'm behind the curve. And that could be whether it was the early stages, web one, it could be web two, and you feel like you've missed the boat, right? And now I'm having that exact same feeling about web three. And I call this the ownership internet. So let me be crystal clear. If you don't lean into web three, and I'm going to say it again, if you don't lean into Web3, you are going to be out of business. Now, I know that sounds bold, but if you are looking around the landscape, if you are a business coach, if you are a course creator, if you are a content creator, all of these spaces are slowly but surely shifting, and it's harder. It's getting harder and harder for those industries, those verticals. Maybe you are selling e-commerce products, but I've seen it over and over again, and I've seen the pattern twice before, and I'm seeing it again now. So that's one of the reasons I've spent the last almost 8, 9 months really digging into this space. And it was one of the reasons I was at this F1 Formula One blockchain event. And it's absolutely why I'm here in front of you now telling you about this, because this is the next big shift. So let me give you an example of something that I saw at this blockchain event that will maybe make this super clear. Imagine going to your local farmer's market. You meet a farmer, you love their produce, but you can only buy it from them when they're there on Saturdays. How many of you do that? You go to a farmer's market, you buy something, maybe you go routinely, or maybe you go every, couple of weeks, whenever you manage to get there. But imagine if you could connect directly with that farmer through an app, but not just any app, one where you could actually see everything about your food's journey. So we are all wrapped up sometimes in organic food and eating healthy, but it's all a fallacy. Our food system is broke. Our labeling system is broke. So I saw this in action with a company called Grow United at this blockchain event. They're using blockchain to basically create a digital farmers market on steroids. Now, here's what that means for us as regular people. Let's say you're buying tomatoes. You can scan a code and see exactly which farm they came from, where they were harvested, and how they got to you. You can even tip the farmer directly and they get it instantly. No middleman taking a cut. So I don't know how much you know about farming, but the farmer sells at a wholesale rate, and then there's a whole bunch of people that make way more money than he makes or she makes in the in between. But here's where it gets really interesting for us as business owners. In the current system, Web 2, if you're that farmer selling through Amazon or Whole Foods, they own your customer data. They own the relationship. But with Web 3, the farmer owns their customer relationships. They can create special offers, loyalty programs, even sell future harvests directly to their best customers. So think about, how would you apply this to your business? Now, it may seem like you may be thinking, well, I'm not a farmer. Like, how does this matter to me? Instead of renting your customers' attention through Facebook or Instagram, because we don't own our followers. I don't. You may think you, and this is the worst part, guys. We spend so much time and energy building up these communities. Trying to build, quote unquote, relationships with our social media followers. But imagine if we truly owned those relationships. Instead of paying influencers, for example, to promote your products, imagine that your loyal customers are actually earning rewards for sharing their genuine experiences with their friends. So it's just a total shift in dynamics. And it's not just happening in agriculture. In Web 2, we're all sharecroppers on someone else's land, to continue with the farm analogy. Where Facebook owns your followers, YouTube owns your content, Amazon owns your store's data. But in Web 3, you actually own your digital assets and customer relationships. Think about actually owning and not renting that real estate. And I know this may not make a lot of sense yet, but I'm getting there. Trust me, I'm building up to this. And just to peek around the corner, Web 4 is coming. And in some cases, I feel like it's almost already here. With the advent of AI, Web 4 is going to be the intelligent internet, where AI and blockchain create hyper personalized experiences. This is already happening. So this is accelerating at such an incredible speed. If you think about Web 1 and Web 2, those were long periods of time in the in between where that technology was building out. Right now, Web 3 and Web 4 both are kind of almost happening simultaneously. Web 3 is still evolving because a lot of businesses are shifting from Web 2 to Web 3. But Web 4 is like right on the heels of it because AI is speeding up this process. And here's why this matters. Every evolution of the internet has created new winners and losers. I'm going to say that again. Every evolution of the internet has created new winners and losers. With Web 1, it was about who had a website. With Web 2, it was about who built the strongest social media presence. Now, with Web 3, it's about who understands and leverages blockchain technology to create true digital ownership and direct customer relationships. Okay? So, and just like those early days of websites and social media, we're still early. Like the difference is this time you're hearing it from someone who's been through these transitions before. I have lived this and not just lived it because a lot of you have lived it, but I've also participated in this ecosystem and I've been able to see the next thing and I've been able to monetize it. And I've been able to turn that monetization and those learning strategies into helping other businesses navigate those same exact changes. And I've seen the pattern. I know what's coming, and I want to make sure you're on the winning side of this next revolution. So I've kind of set the stage there, but let's talk about what is blockchain, anywho. Like, right? So I hear you, Kim. It sounds exciting. Like I hear that you're convinced that we're in the next evolution of the internet. But what the heck is it? So I'm going to break it down, hopefully in a way that'll make sense for your business. You know how everyone tries to make this super complicated. And the reality is, as far as the evolutions of the internet, every evolution of the internet is a learning curve, y'all. Sometimes that's why so many people didn't build their own website back in the day. They didn't know how. So that created an opportunity for me. I was able to monetize that lack of knowledge. It was exactly the same when social media came along. But here's the clincher here. You have the opportunity now to participate in something and not be left behind. So at its core, blockchain is just a simple system. It's kind of like the internet. All right. We don't know how the internet works, but we know it works, right? But let me give you like the components of blockchain. Basically, it is a system that records information in a way that can't be changed or cheated. So think of it like this. Remember the old days when we wrote checks? You'd write out the check. Does anybody still write a check? Occasionally, right? You'd write the check, they'd deposit it, and both you and the bank would have a record of that transaction. But in the digital world, how do you know if something's real or if someone changed the records, the info, right? I mean, this is harder than ever today with AI. How do we know what's real? How do we know what content's real? That's what blockchain solves. It's like having a digital record book where everyone can see what's written. So it's totally transparent. Nobody can rip out the pages or change what's written. You don't need to trust a big company to keep the record straight. So let me give you some real examples of how this matters for business owners. If you are a restaurant owner, maybe you sell pizzas or I don't know, it could be literally anything. You could prove where your organic ingredients really came from. No just saying farm to table, but actually showing customers the entire journey of their meal. Can you imagine the trust factor that would build? Can you imagine how many more people would frequent that restaurant if they knew exactly where their food came from and they could see it? It would only take one time for them to know and trust that brand and that restaurant, and they would go back to it over and over again. But let's give something maybe a little more concrete because I know a lot of us are online business owners. If you're a consultant, you could have contracts that automatically pay you the moment you deliver your work. No more chasing invoices or waiting 30 to 60 days for payment. What? Wow, that would be pretty cool, right? If you're a retail shop owner, your loyalty program could give customers actual ownership in your success, not just points that expire. So this is going to totally shift the way that we engage with our customers, and more specifically, how we reward our customers for actually doing business with us. But here's where it gets really interesting. And this is something that hit me super hard at this blockchain event. Right now, all these blockchain networks need people like you and me to help run them, and they're willing to pay us to do it. So let's talk about what that looks like. And I think this is where I feel like why I'm so excited about it and why I'm losing sleep, because I feel like I got to tell you, because this could be a game changer for so many. You know how in the early days of the internet, people who bought domain names for, maybe $10, and then they later sold them for millions. Like I don't have a huge success story. I think the most I ever sold a domain for was like $10,000. But let's say, for example, somebody in the early days bought Nike.com, and then Nike came knocking, and they're like, "We need our domain name," and they're like, "Well, I own your domain name. You're going to have to pay me for it, and I want $2 million for it." And Nike would pay for it. That was literally what was happening in the early days of the internet, when people were buying up domain names. And this, by the way, is still a very lucrative business model. And you do have to stay on it today. It's harder. Again, it's harder than it used to be. Or how early investors in platforms like Amazon and Google, they saw incredible returns. Well, there's something similar happening right now that's called node ownership. Now, let me break this down in the simplest way possible. I want you to think of nodes, Nodes. So it's not, when I first heard this word, I was like, what? What is that? I don't understand it. But think about nodes like owning a piece of the internet's infrastructure. It's like owning a small piece of Verizon cell towers. Every time someone uses that tower, the owner gets a small piece of the action. Nodes work similarly in a blockchain project. Now, here's a real world example. Let's say you own a small business and you're thinking, Kim, I don't have time to build a whole blockchain project. Well, here's the good news. You don't have to. Just like you can invest in real estate without building the entire apartment complex yourself, you can own nodes in other people's successful projects. So just like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos' garage, I feel like I'm in Jeff Bezos' garage right now. If you could go back in time and be sitting in Jeff Bezos's garage with him, and he could say to you, you could own a piece of this. Now, knowing what you know, you would say, hindsight, right? You would absolutely say yes to that. So this is where we are. So imagine investing in a node that helps process transactions for a blockchain project. Every time someone uses that project, whether they're buying, selling, or transferring something, your node helps verify that transaction and you get a small reward for it. It's like having a tiny toll booth on the blockchain highway. So let's use that same toll booth analogy real quick. So I just moved to Virginia from Tampa, Florida, and I lived in Tampa for almost 20 years. Every time I went anywhere in Tampa, just driving around, we had to go through a toll booth. And in sometimes multiple toll booths. And not only did you pay a toll when you went through them, if you had to come home, you had to pay that toll again. Again, assuming you were riding or driving on toll roads. So every time I went through that, can you imagine if I owned that toll booth? Like, if I owned the mechanism that processed that toll. And so every time somebody drove through, I got a small sliver of a transaction fee. It's like kind of like a credit card company, right? The credit cards charge us to process our funds. We earn that money, but they have a business model that says, hey, you're going to use our infrastructure. And because you're using our infrastructure, you have to pay us a small transaction fee. It's exactly the same thing. Now, here's why this matters now. Many legitimate, well-funded projects are opening up node ownership to early supporters. They need node owners to help run their networks, and they're willing to reward those early supporters. This isn't about cryptocurrency speculation. It's about owning actual infrastructure that provides real utility. So let me give you an example. You know how we all use video conferencing platforms like Zoom and Teams, Microsoft Teams, or Google Meet, right? Well, imagine if instead of just paying to use these platforms, you could actually own a piece of them and get rewarded from their success. That's exactly what a company called Rlink is doing. They're building a video conferencing platform, but here's where it's different. And I call this a USB, a unique selling proposition. Instead of one company owning everything, they're letting regular people, they're giving the ownership back to the people and businesses, and they own a piece of their network through something called node ownership. So here's why this matters to us. When you own a node in Rlink, every time someone uses the platform for video calls or you share it, your node helps process that communication and you earn rewards for providing that service. It's like owning a tiny piece of Zoom or Microsoft Teams, except we can't own a Zoom or Microsoft Teams. And if we were to buy, stock today, we would never really generate tons of money because we are behind that curve, right? We didn't get in on the early days of that. But this is where it gets even better. As a node owner, you actually get a say in how the platform develops. The node owners own the project. So think about that. Instead of just complaining about the features that you wish Zoom had, you can actually vote on what features get built next. And because you own a piece of the network, when the platform grows, your rewards grow too. Now, I know you may be thinking, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty complicated. But here's the thing. Rlink has made it super simple, and other projects similarly. I'm just using them as an example. So just like you figured out how to use social media for your business, you can figure this out too. When I first started with this, I was super overwhelmed, just like I was when I first started trying to design a website. I knew nothing about web design when I started, but I built a 7-figure business doing it. I didn't know anything about social media when I started, but I built multiple 7-figure businesses around social media. And here, like I say, is the next evolution, the next big opportunity knocking. So this is exactly the kind of opportunity I was talking about and have been talking about throughout this episode. It's a chance to actually own a piece of the Web3 revolution before it goes mainstream. Just like those early adopters who bought domain names for $10 and sold them for millions, or those who got in early with social media, this is that moment for Web3. Now, let me be clear about something else, though. This isn't about getting rich. It's about positioning yourself to own a piece of the infrastructure that is going to power the next evolution of the internet. Now, I'm going to interrupt and go back in time for a second here. If you could go back to and think about it, like somebody who owned one of the very first cell phones. How many of you did that? Like, I didn't have that big block thing that you attached in your car and, is big and clunky. And, if somebody had said to me at that point in time, you need one of these, I'd be like, oh, can I call from anywhere? No, not a lot of cell phone coverage, not a lot of towers yet. So it's pretty limited. Well, then it must be cheap. Well, no, they're actually, pretty expensive. Or maybe you were like, well, if it's, not very good and, it's super expensive, what's the draw? And, at that early days of cell phone coverage, if you got involved, you had to be a forward thinker. You had to see something that other people didn't see, because I probably wouldn't have seen it. I'd been like, yeah, no, why would I do that? Like, that's not going anywhere. And yet today, we don't leave home without this in our hands. So this is, again, one of those opportunities where you're going to be on the leading edge of something that has the potential to be incredibly huge. It's about buying commercial or being a part of the commercial real estate in the digital world. So now that you understand what blockchain is and how you can own a piece of it, potentially through nodes, there's so many things that you could do that don't require you to own a piece of this. But I wanted to make this real in the construct of how you could participate now. But let me share some real ways that businesses are already using this technology. And And I promise these aren't futuristic ideas. These are things that you can start implementing in your business in the next few months because others are already doing it. So let's start with something every business owner cares about or should care about: customer loyalty. And this is probably one of the things that I am so excited about because I feel like this is absolutely the evolution that businesses need. You know those punch cards where you buy 10 coffees and you get one free and you carry it around in your purse, right? Or your wallet, whatever. You get to the coffee shop and they punch every time you buy a coffee. And then when you get 10 punches, you get a free coffee. Well, Starbucks has completely revolutionized this concept with their Odyssey program. Instead of just getting points, customers are getting digital assets that actually grow in value as Starbucks grows. Now, think about that. Your customers become investors in your success. That's pretty cool. And do you think if they're investors in your success that they're going to support your business at a higher level? Because if they support your business, who wins? Everybody wins. The business owner wins, but so does the people who support the business because they're invested in your success because they own a piece of it. But here's where it's more exciting, I think. Small businesses can do this too. Imagine if your best customers could own a piece of your growth. Instead of just buying from you, they're partnering with you. They become your biggest advocates because they literally have skin in the game. And it's just like the, R-Link example I gave you. If I'm getting rewarded for sharing that, yeah, I want to tell people about it. And I'm going to use it more than Zoom. In fact, I'm going to ditch Zoom because Zoom doesn't give me any rewards for using them. Now, let me give you another example that I think, well, it really blew me away when I was talking about this, and we were talking about this in the room in Vegas. Remember how I mentioned, and I've talked about R-Link a couple of times because it's so relevant to us. We get it. We understand video conferencing platforms. Well, think about how this could work in your business. Instead of paying Zoom or Microsoft Teams every month, you could actually earn rewards. Like I just said, that's what I'm going to do. From every video call that you host, you're not just using the service, you're an owner of the infrastructure, which again invests you in the support of that particular project or that company, if you will. Technically, in the blockchain world, there's no companies, there's just projects. Now, here's where it gets practical for different types of businesses. Let's say you're a service-based business, like a consultant, a coach, or maybe a freelancer. Smart contracts can ensure that you get paid the moment your work is complete. That would be super helpful, right? Like if you could have a smart contract and they had to put them, everything's laid out. The both sides know what's in it. You have to deliver the goodies, and they have to put the money up front. Your testimonials, that's just one example, but you could also take this a step deeper. Like your testimonials and your track record are verified and unchangeable. And as a consumer, if I could see that and know that they weren't generated. How many of you have ever been to a sales page and you see all of these testimonials and you're like, are these real? The reality is there's no way to know. Or if you go to Yelp or some of these other places, they could be totally fabricated. Do we know anymore? That I think is a differentiator for sure. And you could offer your clients ownership stakes in your successful projects. That again is something that is going to tie your clients, your customers to you on a deeper level. They're invested as much as you are at this point in time. But let's shift to like if you're retail or e-commerce, your customers can verify if your products are authentic. Like you could have a record. Like I'll give you an example. Tiffany's, which is kind of a bigger brand, but they are actually using the blockchain. They're going to put QR codes in their diamonds, and you're going to be able to, if you buy a Tiffany's diamond, it's microscopic, so you can't see it with the eye, but you'll be able to scan that QR code in that diamond, and you'll have an entire history of where that diamond originated from. So you're going to know that it's not a blood diamond. You're going to know previous ownership if there's such a thing, etc. You're going to have the entire history, and you're going to know if your diamond, in this particular case, is authentic. You're going to know if your consumer is going to know if your reviews are from real buyers. They're guaranteed to be real. Your loyalty program gives customers actual ownership and not just rewards, or it could be a combination of those things. Your loyalty program could give people the opportunity to participate in the infrastructure of your company, or you could just reward them for using it, just like the airlines does with airline miles, or our credit card does with credit card points. But what if you're a creator or an influencer? This is where I think this is super powerful. We talked about this just a little bit last week with Katie Brinkley. She was our guest last week. And, as users of social media today, we are beholden to the platforms themselves. And sometimes the ability to get in front of our audience, even after we've spent time building that audience, they take it from us, right? The algorithm dictates what we see on the daily. But what if there was actually a decentralized, meaning the users own the platform, decentralized social media platform where there's no algorithm and you own your audience relationship, not the platform? That's being built, y'all. In fact, it should be out in a few months. What if your content earnings go directly to you and not middlemen? So, a lot of content creators use platforms that take a cut. Wouldn't it be nice if your content didn't have multiple hands in the pot? And what if your community could actually invest in your success from day one? That would be huge. So, these are all forward leaning things that are happening and are here, and you have the opportunity to be a part of. Now, here's the best part. You don't have to do this all at once. And you may think, well, these aren't things I even know how to do. But here's what I want you to know. You can start small. Maybe you can begin by owning a node in someone else's project, like Rlink, or there's so many. I won't say there's so many, but there are some viable projects out there that are doing this right now, and you can be a part of that. You can learn how it works, earn some rewards, get invested in it, understand how the technology works from the inside, and be a part of that infrastructure. Be in the garage with Jeff Bezos, right? Then, as you get comfortable, you can start implementing these ideas in your own businesses. Maybe you start with a simple loyalty program that gives your customers real ownership, or maybe you start accepting payments through smart contracts to get paid faster. The key is to be in the know and to start somewhere, because when you set on knowledge, and it's going to bypass you. If you were a part of the internet in the early days and you did nothing, you've already got that burn. If you did the same thing with social media and you didn't jump in, you burnt twice. The definition of not doing something when you know something is insanity, people. Now, I want you to remember, like, if this is the early days of the internet and social media, right? The businesses that start experimenting now, even in small ways, are going to have such an advantage over those who wait. And if you're thinking, Kim, this sounds amazing, but way too technical for me, like I said before, I get it. I've been like immersing myself in this model for about 8 months now, and that's exactly what I said in the early days of websites back in the 90s and social media in the 2000s. But just like you didn't know how to code or build a website, and you may still not know how to do that, or how servers work to use Facebook, you don't need to understand all the technical details to take advantage of this opportunity. What you need to understand is that this is happening. The question isn't if these changes are coming to your industry, it's when. And right now, you have the chance to be early. So, before we wrap up today, I want to be really clear about something. Everything I've shared with you today about Web3, blockchain, and especially node ownership, these aren't just interesting concepts. They're real. They're happening now, and I feel like so many people are missing out because nobody's telling them about it. I want you to not have that opportunity. I want to make sure you don't miss out on this opportunity. I want you to not just look back and say, well, I remember when Kim talked about this. I want you to come along for the ride. And because timing is everything, I've set aside over the next few days, because I feel like this is something that you just need a deeper relationship, deeper conversation over. So I've set aside some time, and for maybe 10, 15 people who are serious about positioning themselves early in this revolution. I want to be clear. This is not a sales call. This is about strategy. I want to help you understand exactly how you can get started and be a part of this ecosystem. And, I've obviously been doing this for a relatively short period of time, but I'm so excited about the possibilities. This absolutely is the next thing. And how you can take advantage of it is all I care about. So here's the thing. Like I said before, just like those early days of social media where I helped many of you build your presence, I want to be a part of that journey with you and help you navigate this opportunity. But remember, this isn't about getting massively rich. It's about positioning yourself, being a part of the future of the internet, and being strategic about what's coming next. So if you're ready to take action, I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to text. I'm going to put it up on the screen. So text web 3.0 to 540-546-5483. And we're going to jump on a call and talking about, like everything else I've talked about, timing matters. And even if you're not ready right now, maybe like I'm like, this sounds interesting, but I just don't understand it enough. Stay tuned to this podcast over the next few weeks and months. I'm going to be sharing more insights about how businesses just like yours and mine are already using, or how we can tap into the power of Web3 to transform our businesses, our relationships with our customers, and create new and more profitable revenue streams. So again, we're just reminding you that the best time to position yourself for the future is always now, today. And it really is your choice whether you be a part of this, or you say, "Ooh, I don't know," and you let it pass you by. If you've already let the cycles in the internet pass you by, do not do the same thing this time around. Jump in. All right. So now I'm going to circle back to the comments and see what we have. If we have any questions, let me get all the way down to the bottom here. So Vicki said, I missed out on being on the ground floor of PageMaker back in the 80s, right? Like, so how many of you all remember Front Page? I mean, even if you'd invested in Front Page in the early days, like, right? Front Page is obsolete now. And a lot of the things that we're doing today in business are going to be obsolete. So just like, if you think about it, what is this going to look like? What will business look like even in 10 years? In our lifetime, we have seen massive shifts in technology, specifically online technology, right? Like there was a time when we didn't carry these around. We had to pull the phone off the wall and press the buttons or dial the buttons, like, right? So there's so many things I think we just miss out on because we're not paying attention, or we're fearful because we think it's too complex. And then I see Barb saying, I've been studying the topic for quite a while. Yes, Blockchain Revolution, such a great book. There's so much knowledge out there, but yet I don't think people are consuming it in what I'm going to call a dumbed down way, because I feel like there's so much knowledge. Tech knowledge in particular seems to bypass, and ladies, I'm not just picking on you, but I think sometimes tech evolutions bypass women in particular on a larger scale than perhaps men. Like, even though there were definitely women in the room there at this blockchain event, there were probably more men than women. It's sometimes because men, I think, are a little more open to technology changes or shifts. But ladies, step up. I mean, we are smart women. We do not need to be intimidated by technology. And we should be positioning ourselves for the next thing so that we don't miss out. All right. All right. I'm just keep on. I love this. So Emil, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. But I love that somebody is hearing this. Yes. I think this is critical for us. Oh, yes, Anita. Okay. So I want you guys to know that I take my responsibilities to my community very, very seriously. So I don't accept affiliate deals just for the money. People will come to me and they'll be like, "Well, they offer me lots of money to tell you meaning my community, about X, Y, Z." I'm like, if I don't believe in it and I don't use it, I'm not telling you about it. Like, no. So when I come to you and tell you that this is a shift, this is something's happening, I want you to know that I've thought long and hard about it before I do it. And I believe in it. I'm involved. I'm investing. I'm not just investing, I'm investing time and energy. I'm trying to educate people because, it's coming from it's coming from a pure place on my side. I just want you to know that I value your trust. Once you've destroyed someone's trust, there is no way to get that back. So I want you to know that over the years, that has been my top and highest priority is when somebody gives me their time and attention, I value that. And I stand on that hill. So thank you for saying that, Anita. I really appreciate that. So the blockchain event in Las Vegas was this weekend, and Vicki, I'm going to set up a separate call for you guys to kind of fill you in on everything that I haven't said here. But we'll be in touch in the next probably 24 hours. No, Helen, that's what's so powerful about this. And this is the other thing. When there is new tech, there is always going to be scammers. There is absolutely always going to be people who take advantage of new things, even old things. I mean, there's people that still use the texting system to dupe, old people into giving them all their money, or fill in the scenario. That's just obviously the first thing that came to mind. But the people in this room are billionaires, millionaires, high end. Not to say that just because they're billionaires, they're above being a scammer. I'm not saying that because it happens, right? But these are people. I was very impressed with the quality of the people that are involved in changing the world. They want to disrupt technologies. We've got the farming industry that they want to disrupt our food supply chain is broke and it needs to be fixed. So who's going to fix it? One person alone cannot fix it. It takes people who understand that it's broke and participating in something that's going to provide a solution. It could be, the health industry. I don't know about you guys, but like, I don't even know where all my health records are. And if I want to get them, like, where would I don't even know. Over the years, I've been to so many doctors. I'm like, where would I even get all my health records? There's no central location for that. And we don't own it anyway. Many times I've had to pay to get a printed copy of my medical records. What if our medical records were on the blockchain and we own our data? That's where we're going. What if I don't know if you all have seen this, but JFK is saying, hey, we want to put our budget, our national budget on the blockchain so that you all, meaning us, we live here in the US, you all can see every transaction, every dollar spent. Wouldn't that be amazing? We would then know that they're spending, $5,000 for a hammer or a toilet seat. So really interesting where all this is going. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to the political landscape. And this is not a political statement. So please, I don't want to get into that. Right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever you believe, that's not my point. But there's been a lot of talk about the blockchain and how this is not only, it's bringing it mainstream. Okay, why is it bringing it mainstream? It's because it's happening. And what I'm telling you right now, you have the opportunity to be a part of something that is going to be a part of our future. It's just whether you choose to step up or not. Even if you don't, pay attention. Just start listening. I promise you, as as you start to hear more and more, it's going to start to click, and you're going to be like, oh, I heard Kim say this. Um, so, Barb, this is such a great question. The way the blockchain works is it is a series of nodes that operate a blockchain, and the software that operates each node is basically can be anywhere in the world, like a server farm for like Amazon. I'll use Amazon for all of us are familiar with Amazon. Amazon has server farms, and they're centrally located and they're centrally owned. A blockchain is decentralized, meaning that anyone can own a node to operate a blockchain project, and that node can be hosted anywhere. It can be on somebody's laptop. It could be on their desktop. I don't necessarily recommend this, even though it's totally safe to do this. I've got mine in the cloud, but those nodes are all over the world, and it is and a fragment of the information. Like if I was to buy something through a blockchain project, my first initial of my name is on one node hosted on one computer somewhere or one cloud source somewhere. The second letter somewhere else. The transactional data pieces, it's literally broke into thousands of computers across the world. It's virtually unhackable because somebody that would want to hack it would have to have access to all of those data points. It's why it's easier to hack a centralized location because everything's in one place. But with decentralized, meaning the node ownership and those pieces of data, they're literally spread across thousands of data points. So hopefully that helps answer that. All right. And how do we feel? How do we feel confident countries? How do we feel confident countries against our blockchain efforts won't sabotage our efforts? Short answer is I can't really tell you that because I don't know the answer. I'll just be totally honest. It's like everything, though. I think one of the values with blockchain is just what I said, is the fact that the data is spread out through literally hundreds of thousands of locations. And so that's what makes it immutable, secure. And we're not the only country. In fact, we are behind in the blockchain space. So usually the United States is leading the charge when it comes to new technology, except this evolution. And that needs to change. We are absolutely behind. And, social media, I know, Barb, you'll get this. In the early days of social media, obviously the US, a lot of influencers went all in. A lot of us just got super busy with it. We saw the opportunity, and we led the charge. And I would go to other countries like European countries, and they'd be like, wow, we're like 2 or 3 years behind you guys. Now you'll go to European countries and they're ahead of us in this space. So it's not so much about sabotaging our efforts. It's about, I think there's a lot of people globally working together to solve world problems using blockchain, which is fascinating to me. So hopefully that's helpful. Listen, guys, let's do this. If anybody is interested, seriously, just text Web 3.0 because I know I've shared like a lot of information. My primary goal today was just to start the conversation and get you educated on why this is so powerful and why this shift is happening and what that shift is and as a Web 3.0. And then if you want to know more, please just Web 3.0, text me, and we'll have a separate conversation. All right. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys. And anytime you spend time with me, like I said before, it's my honor, honestly, to have people tune in and listen. I appreciate you so much. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. I won't see you again until next Monday. So happy Thanksgiving to those of you who are in the U.S. I hope you have a blessed time with your family. I don't well, I'm not even going to tell you don't eat too much because we all do. But I hope you have wonderful food and wonderful family time. And we'll see you next Monday. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe and God bless. Talk soon. Bye bye.